Man, I do the bit. Welcome to Co-Pilots, the podcast where we watch not just the first episode of a show,
but also the second. Some shows don't have the best pilot episode, and giving it a second chance might just change your mind.
Here we take that chance for you to let you know our opinion on a show that there's more than just one shot.
I'm Justice. Alongside me is my co-pilot Josh. Now, let's get ready for takeoff. Your in-flight entertainment will be nothing. It's not one of those episodes.
Thank you for playing along with the bit that far. That was brilliant.
It's the first time I've done it. You're welcome.
That was brilliant. Thank you. So before we actually started recording this, I was bringing up a scenario I saw on TikTok from Tumblr to you.
Tumblr content. Great.
Tumblr is actually, when curated, one of the greatest places on the internet.
Oh yeah, when it's curated, it's actually pretty dope.
It's just when you have to, go and experience Tumblr for yourself that it's painful.
No, it's because Tumblr is, more of a... I'm going to say it, and it doesn't sound entirely true, but it feels pretty accurate. Tumblr is one of the more creative spaces online, I would say.
Yeah, Tumblr and Pinterest.
Yeah,
and
also Instagram is also pretty creative, but Reels kind of fucked with it, in my opinion.
Whatever,
and the death of X.
Whatever the current DeviantArt place is, because DeviantArt used to be the place where everybody posted their art, but I don't think that's the thing anymore.
A lot of it's Instagram now. A lot of artists just kind of migrated to Instagram.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we dive into the normal in the cockpit stuff, I have this scenario and I want to play it out for you. And I know your initial reaction, but just hear me out. So you make a deal with a fairy, an actual fae.
Okay, what type of fae?
We're probably talking the Unseelie Court based on the vibes of the question.
Okay, so I'm not making a deal because I know better than to, because it's an Unseelie Court, so they're already a bit more chaotic.
Yeah.
And also they've had hundreds of years to perfect the art of the deal.
Okay.
Well, I guess only 20 or so. When did Donald Trump make the book?
Okay, but hear me out. You make a deal with this Unseelie Court fae.
Okay. This is by far the wildest part of your proposition. Not meeting the fae, me making the deal, but okay.
So this fae will give you $1 million, strings free.
I am making a bad deal if it's just for money from a fucking fae, but continue.
Yes, no strings attached, $1 million. Government won't touch it. Government doesn't care about it. No taxes, $1 million.
Okay.
Per bone that you give it. Specifically, it's any bone, and it's random. You don't get to choose. But for every bone you give, you get $1 million. How many bones would you give? You can give 0.
Any bones I give them?
Yeah, but you just consent to it. You give them a number.
And they get a random bone.
And they get a random bone.
Is it, by definition of the contract, a random bone in my possession? Or is it random on my end where they get to choose said bone? I just don't know if they're choosing.
So, take all the bones.
Yeah.
And assign them all a number.
Cool.
And throw that in a number generator.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna go spend a fuck ton of money buying bones first.
See, this is the fun part. I don't think you even have to do that. The way the internet's talking about it is hey, it really depends where you're at when you meet this fae. He's if one of the random bones you roll is a spinal column, you're gonna be fucked if you're out in the woods. But
also, your spinal column is not a bone; it's made up of a bunch of bones.
Yeah, but if you lose a single spinal column bone, you're gonna be
generally fucked. Yes.
Yeah, especially if you're out in the middle of the woods where you're most likely to meet a fae.
Yeah.
But, specifically based on the wording, it doesn't even matter if you have the bones in your possession, because the fae here is saying for any bone that you give a consent to take, you get $1 million.
Yeah.
And it's not putting a limit on your bones. And the
exactly.
question never says your bones.
Yeah, any bones I'm willing to give them.
Which means you don't even have to be in possession of them.
Yeah.
It's every bone in the history of the world that is still a bone.
Yeah, I have to be willing to give it to them. So I have to be willing to possibly commit murder or maim someone. It's why I said I'd get some bones, but
No, the fae magically gets the bone regardless.
Oh, they just magically get the bone?
They just magically get the bone.
Then yeah, I'm willing to give them fucking any bone.
Yeah,
any bone.
Under the conceit where it's you realize that the wording is terrible and no Unseelie fae would ever make this deal.
Yeah.
It's obviously I'm gonna give them 1,000 bones, because most of those bones, if we just assign every bone a number and randomly roll on a table,
most of them probably won't even be human.
Or probably already from dead things.
Yeah, they're probably from dead things. They're probably not even human.
Yeah. But under the assumption that we work with...
I would be slightly sad if Sue's skull ended up missing, but I mean, honestly, worth it. Probably worth more than $1 million, but it's not $1 million I could get.
But under the assumption that we work by the rules of the Tumblr post, where we're assuming that it's specifically our bones in our body, randomly taken, are you giving up any bones?
I mean, this doesn't put a quantification on where I'm meeting the fae.
Yeah.
So I'm going to assume the best odds in my favor. And say I'm somewhere at least where I have cell signal best. I'm not going to say I'm at a hospital.
We'll say you're 5 minutes from a local hospital.
Sure. And I have 206 bones in my body.
Mm-hmm.
Most bones in your body are actually kind of smallish.
Mm-hmm.
2, 3 maybe.
So
depends if I can restate the number, if I can.
No, you
I
just
can
say
use it all at once as being bulk.
You just say one number, and that's it. You get the deal once for one number of bones. You can't be okay, I'll give you a bone, and then they take a pinky finger bone. And you're cool. Yeah. I'll give you another bone.
Gotcha. I'm gonna go 3.
3. I went with 3 as well.
Yeah.
So there was also this link to this nifty little app.
Also, before I give them any bones, though, I am laying down and putting my phone next to me, just in case I lose a piece of my spinal column. Because as long as you don't stress it too much, you're not going to do a fuck ton of damage initially.
Yeah. So I also said 3.
Yeah.
My first 2 bones, no problem. I think my third bone was greedy because this website randomly generates the bones you'll lose.
Great. Random bone generator.
Yeah. So the first bone I lost was a small bone in a toe. It didn't specify which toe. It was just like, this is the name of the bone. It's in all of these toes.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that is literally not a problem. No, let's go. The second
my balance is slightly off. It's fine. I'm not very coordinated to begin with.
The second bone I lost was in my right hand.
Yeah.
Specifically part of the tunnel that creates the carpal tunnel on the top.
Okay, yeah.
And like, I already have carpal tunnel issues in my right hand, so like...
I mean, your hand's going to be pretty hard to use, but also, you invest $1 million a few years later to get a fucking implant put in.
Yeah, like, it's not even like a few years later. Like, you could literally just get somebody to stick a piece of plastic in there to like...
Yeah, but I don't know how much that costs.
Yeah.
So which why I said a few years. Just give your money some time to accrue interest.
The third bone was an issue, though.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, like, sound like an issue when you first start thinking about it, but, like, the implications are actually very painful, and it was the coccyx.
You lost your ass.
Tailbone. Just the tailbone, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fucking horrible.
Yeah, you couldn't sit down without being in excruciating pain.
Yeah, and it's also very hard to replace and repair.
Yeah, so you want to see what 3 bones you lose?
Sure, let's go.
Okay, we're generating. So first
skull,
you lose...
Skull. Turn me to mush.
So, I'm so sorry.
First... Is this my skull?
The first bone you're going to lose, it's actually the third bone you're going to lose, but we're going to start with this one.
Okay.
Is an intermediate phalange, which means the medium-sized finger bones.
Yeah, that's fine. It's not great, but it's fine.
So the next bone you're going to lose is the vomer bone, which is the plate bone.
I have a vomer bone?
You have 2 vomers. It doesn't specify which one you're losing, but there is a left vomer and a right vomer, and they create the plate that is underneath the bottom of your eye and
underneath the orbital socket, yeah.
And crosses it over to your nose.
I know what you're talking about. That's actually easily replaced. It happens all the time.
And the last bone you're losing is one of your sphenoids.
I don't know which ones those are.
They're the bone right by your ear that covers a part of your brain.
That's fine. I just can't take blows on the head from that side. All of mine are replaceable. It's worth the $3 million. I can just get a metal plate put in my head.
Yeah, so...
Not that I have to worry about going through, like, TSA anymore. I have $3 million that I'm going to invest.
But the obvious, like, thing is, the prompt doesn't specify whose bones. It just says any bone.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm willing to give you any bone. Magically take bones. Do it. I'm probably picking, like, 300 bones.
And even if, like, it had to be my bones specifically, bones I own, I'm just gonna go buy some bones. I'm gonna go buy, like, a couple chickens and, like...
Yeah.
Not even, like, live chickens. I'm just gonna go buy chickens that I'm gonna eat. And then take the bones and be like, here's an extra 300 bones.
Oh, I've bought, like, 5 whole rotisserie chickens from Walmart.
Yeah, exactly.
The chances of you taking anything important from me are so low now.
But yeah, I thought that was fun. I'm obviously going to use it in, like, a D&D-like thing.
Fair.
Although I'm going to clean the wording up a little bit, because...
I mean, fair. If we're talking about dumb D&D things to include, I saw one the other day that I would include.
Okay.
The Explorer party ends up in an inn, and some weird shit's happening, and they meet a group of Aarakocra bards.
Okay.
Who all happen to have eagle features.
Just so we're clear, Aarakocras are bird people in Dungeons & Dragons.
Yes. And as you're trying to figure out what's going on, they are the expedition that explains to you, this hotel that you've just checked into, this inn, you can't leave it.
Yes! Yeah.
Murder house, but skin it as an inn and put the eagles in it.
It's Hotel California by the Eagles.
Yes.
I think rather than having just like a group of Aarakocra there, the bar is ran by eagle-based Aarakocra.
Yeah.
That way it's literally Hotel California by the Eagles.
Fuck, I would probably throw in some variety and let, like, some trait change for, like, some kinkus to be eagles as well.
Amazing. That's good. So, normally we just run down what we've been doing, like, media-wise, what we've been enjoying, and that's the majority of this type of episode.
Yeah, it's been more Arrowverse.
We have watched a bunch more Arrowverse.
We're over halfway through Black Lightning now.
The first season of Black
Lightning, yes.
Yeah, I was like, there's 3 seasons of Black Lightning.
Yeah, no, not the show, just the first season, my bad.
If you've watched the Arrowverse, what I'm going to say next is going to be a very obvious point for you to know where we are. If you've not watched the Arrowverse, what I'm going to say is going to be gibberish. We're at the point where they summon Bebo to fight Malice.
I mean, I'm after the point that they summoned Bebo to fight Malice.
I fell asleep during the episode.
Yeah, you did.
My point is, that's the last episode we watched. They summoned Bebo to fight Malice.
Yep.
And if those words make no sense for you, I am fully glad for you. I'm happy that you don't know what Bebo or Malice is.
Yeah, otherwise you would have watched too much Arrowverse. Like, a mind-numbing, mind-rotting amount of Arrowverse.
Other than Arrowverse, I did start a show called Under the Dome, based off the
Yes,
Stephen King novel. And then I have sequentially dropped watching Under the Dome, because I found out it got canceled on a cliffhanger, and none of the plots ever actually get resolved. So
that sucks.
I was like, cool, I'm not watching it anymore. I got through like the first half of the first season, I was like, this show is pretty okay. And it also apparently, after season 1, there's a big change in the writer's room, and the way somebody put it is, after season 1, it feels like no writer on the show had watched previous episodes when they were writing episodes.
Delightful.
Yeah.
That always sucks.
So I just dropped it. Which is sad, because I don't like Stephen King's writing. I think he makes really cool world ideas and story ideas.
Fair.
But I hate his prose.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of his prose either. There's been a few of his books that I've read that I've been fine with. The Shining was one, and Doctor Sleep was another. Both of those, the writing is, like, the prose is not as heavy-handed as other things, like It, or Salem's Lot, or somehow even Cujo has weird prose in it.
I've been reading a bunch of 1120. Like, I tried reading a bunch of 11/22/63 because that show was so good. The book's okay. I'm not like a big fan of his writing. And 11/22/63, in case you're not familiar, is the Stephen King story where a man finds a hole in time that sends you specifically back to a time in 1961 or 1962.
I believe it's 62.
And then he makes it his life goal to prevent the JFK assassination.
And bad things always happen.
And he eventually does prevent the JFK assassination. But worse things happen.
Yep. So then he tries to prevent the JFK assassination and prevent those things from happening. And eventually he's like, fuck it, the world was better when JFK died.
Mm-hmm.
And goes back to his time. Spoilers for the entirety of 11/22/63.
Yep. Good show. Lame book. But yeah, that's mostly been what I've been watching is Arrowverse and Under the Dome. I've also been watching wrestling, and if you're keeping up with all the wrestling, it's been a wild ride right now.
Yeah?
Yeah, but not like in the way it was a wild ride a year ago at this time, where CM Punk got in a fight backstage and like tried to ruin one of the biggest shows in wrestling history because he's a narcissist. It's more of a wild ride because it's been very good, and the storytelling's been very good and fulfilling.
Fair enough. I believe it. I mean, with everything you've said about it, it sounds much more cohesive than last year when you've been talking to me about it in the background.
The difference a year makes. It's so much better now.
I haven't really been watching anything besides Arrowverse for the most part.
Fair. It's a very good series.
Yeah. It's also just been consuming my time period between sleep and work, so.
Yeah.
Though, on a much neater note, in my opinion, Brandon Sanderson is now in the top-funded Kickstarter projects twice now, out of the top 5.
Top 3, actually.
Top 3, sorry.
He's at number 1 and 3 on lock.
For all of Kickstarter?
All of Kickstarter.
Crazy. Because he recently kickstarted the Cosmere RPG tabletop. And my god, I wish I had the money at the time to back it. I mean, I will buy it later, because I know he sells like all of his shit through Dragonsteel later. So I'll end up paying more money than what the Kickstarter was worth for the stuff I want from it, but I'll buy it.
The top 3 Kickstarters are as follows. Surprise! 4 secret novels by Brandon Sanderson Kickstarter.
Oh yeah, I forgot that was number 4.
That's number 1.
Number 1, sorry. I forgot those 4 were number 1.
Number 2 is Pebble Time, awesome smartwatch. And then number 3 is Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere, the role-playing game.
Fucking crazy.
Number 4 is the coolest cooler, the 21st century cooler that's actually cooler. It looks like it's a cooler with built-in like radio and a whole bunch of other stuff built into it.
I've seen lunchboxes like that since like the mid-2000s.
It looks like it has a whole bunch of stuff other than radio built in, and then number 5 is Frosthaven.
Gotcha.
Number 6 was the Pebble 2, in case the first Pebble wasn't cool enough for you.
It wasn't very great.
The Pebble, it's a smartwatch brand.
I know what it is. Like, I've heard good things, but also, like, I've never been interested in smartwatches. I like older style watches. They're just better.
So the coolest cooler, their description for it is a portable party disguised as a cooler. It can blend drinks, play music, and bring fun to any outdoor occasion.
It is neat that it can blend drinks.
Yeah.
I don't need the radio portion. Like, I feel like a good Bluetooth speaker and a phone work better, probably.
It has a built-in ice machine that can crush ice as well.
Nice.
USB charger, waterproof Bluetooth speaker.
Like, I get the bill, but it seems neat. It definitely wasn't worth whatever the backing cost was.
Yeah, in order to get one of these coolers, it was $165.
Yeah, no, not worth it.
For the early bird special.
Yeah, no, I'd rather just get a cooler and bring a portable speaker and a phone.
Yeah, that's fair. Me too. Oh, it's got Bluetooth.
Ooh, neat.
The lid has a built-in LED light, so if it's dark and you open it, you can still see into the...
Hear me out. They make waterproof lights you can buy really fucking cheap, just slap on the inside of things like that. Or hear me out. I opened it and I used my phone as a flashlight. Like, I understand what it's getting at. It just seems entirely unnecessary.
It's got a bottle opener attached.
I have one on my keys.
The storage is able to split. It has like one of those like my comic bins.
Yeah, split storage is nice. I appreciate that.
And the lid has storage for like plates and silverware built into it.
Okay, that's fine. Like that's a good cooler then. I don't know if it needs everything else with it.
Yeah, it's a bunch of like cool stuff, and like good coolers are expensive anyways.
Yeah, it sounds like I've added more things to it though to make the cooler heavier and hold less. When I'd rather just have a cooler that isn't bogged down by additional weight because you fill those things up and they're a bitch to move, and has more space to put my alcohol or non-alcohol, I guess.
I mean, I fully get what they're going for, and maybe if you're the type of person who can afford to like have a boat and like and like go out on the lake and enjoy a boat, having this cooler for your boat would be cool.
Yeah, I guess.
But don't boats normally have built-in radios already?
Yeah, a lot of them normally do.
I don't know. But yeah, you're like you were saying, Brandon Sanderson's two of the top 3 Kickstarters of all time.
And the Cosmere RPG looks fantastic. The only downside, in my opinion, is that I'm going to buy it. But the downside is that I need to buy it because it has additional canonical world setting and story stuff.
Which is so rude. So rude.
Like, even the standalone adventures that your characters play through are canonical to the setting of the world. Obviously, your exact character interactions aren't, but like the entire setting for what's going on, that entire premise, the fact that this adventure is a thing is set up to happen, is canon to the worlds.
I'm not sure if this is a good example, but actually this is a great example. I'm just not sure if it aligns with what actually is in the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
If one of the like adventure paths that it like came with, adventure modules it came with, was about a heist that happens, that heist canonically happens.
Yeah, it just didn't necessarily happen that way.
Yeah.
Basically. None of them are a heist, but that is the basic idea.
Yeah. So like later, if in a Cosmere story it comes up that this person had their will stolen from them, the canonical explanation is it happened because in this RP.
Yeah. Now I don't know how much like the end layout of the adventure affects the overall thing, but I know the setup for everything and the story setting and the world setting provided in the adventures are canon, which means any named character we meet in there that is written in the adventure book is canon to the worlds of the Cosmere.
More importantly, the next Stormlight Archive book comes out in 2 months.
It does. Wind and Truth.
And we have it pre-ordered.
Yeah, we do.
I think I'm more upset that I missed, not the Kickstarter for it, because they didn't do a Kickstarter for it, but I missed the launch of the Mistborn deck builder game.
Oh, yeah.
Just because I love deck builders and I love card games.
I know you do. And you quite enjoy what you've read of Mistborn.
Mistborn is the only Cosmere I've actually read through so far, and I love it. So.
You haven't read through all of it either.
I read through the first age.
You've read through Mistborn Era 1, not Mistborn Era 2.
Most of Era 2, half of Era 2.
Like half of Era 2, but it has like 5 books. You've read like 2.
Currently only has 4 books, thank you, I think.
You might be right.
But yeah, otherwise, what's up?
Nothing.
I'm actively thinking about getting out of Magic the Gathering.
Fuck yeah. I mean, oh no, Magic's so fun. Why would you ever give up Magic?
Like, if I do, I'd probably keep together a couple EDH decks, like 2 or 3 or 4.
Imagine only having 2 EDH decks.
But otherwise, like, I don't play it enough.
Yep.
And I don't care about any of the structured formats anymore.
No.
Standard is, like, better than it has been in a long time.
It's a bad time, though.
But keeping up with it...
It always feels bad to play Standard, because the cards cycle down so quickly.
They don't anymore. Standard's now 3 years.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, they extended Standard.
Things are constantly spoiled for it, though, so often they have to constantly be re-editing. And the thing that I don't like about deck builders is I have to edit decks. If it's a build-as-you-go deck builder, I'm much more likely to play it.
Yeah.
And have fun with it. But if I have to build something and then constantly edit it and sink money into editing it, it's definitely not worth it.
I think if I get fully out of Magic, other than like the handful of EDH decks I'd want to keep, and like stuff I've collected that I love,
fair enough.
That has no like I have the entire English Mystic archive from Strixhaven,
and all your fucking Quickens.
Yeah, I wouldn't get rid of those because
understandable.
Like those have meaning to me outside of the context of like trading cards.
Yeah.
But the rest of my binders don't.
Yeah.
But
my binder means absolutely fucking nothing to me.
If I did get out, I think I would like look at trying to piece together the entirety of the Netrunner CCG.
Fair. Except for I heard after like the 4th box release, there's kind of really only like 2 decks to build, and you have to buy like certain sets to build the decks correctly. And like there's really like 3 decks that are worth playing. I think only one of them, there's like only one good ice deck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of fun when I played Netrunner.
Ice being the defense for people who don't know. In the Netrunner game, you are hacking into a system. So one person is the hacker and the other person is
the corpo.
And they are on defense. And their defense is done by building ice. Ice being a cyber technology term for defense structures and coding.
It's actually a really fun game.
It's very fun.
Primarily because the two players, it's an asymmetric game. The two players are playing with different mechanics and game goals.
Yes.
And that makes it a lot of fun. And in competitive Netrunner, the way they run it is each player has to have a hacking deck and a
ice deck.
Corpo deck.
Yeah.
And you will basically randomly decide who's on Corpo first.
Yep.
And then the loser of that game chooses what they're playing in the second game.
Mm-hmm.
And the third game is chosen by the loser of the second game.
Yeah. Like, there might be more decks than what I said, but like, from what I heard the last time I heard anything about it, from a person I know who actively played, they're like, because I was talking about getting into it after playing a few games with them, they're like, it's a really fun game. To build, like, the ice deck I have here, you have to buy, like, 3 or 4 different sets, and you get all the cards, which is nice, but you need to buy some of those sets a few times because you need multiple copies of a card.
And there's not a big secondary market for it.
There's really not, so,
Fair enough. I just really liked the game from what I played with it.
Oh yeah, I would look into it more, and also, I mean, if you're just playing it casually, who fucking cares?
That's true. If you're not trying to play competitively, just, like, building some decks and being like, this is a Corpo deck that does this, and this is a hacker deck that does this, and, like, these are the pre-built decks we have, and you, like, just make it a board game.
Yeah, I don't know if you've noticed, both to you and to the passengers, I would say casual gamer, but when I'm playing a game, I take them quite seriously, but, like, I enjoy casual style games. I don't want to have to invest a bunch of time or effort. I don't like highly competitive games with competitive fields.
Can I tell you one of the funniest?
And I say that, but, like, Take It to Ride has a competitive scene.
Catan
has a competitive scene.
That's exactly what I was going to get into.
But, like,
there's a Catan World Championships.
Yeah, and I think I could actually do fairly well at it. Because it's basically just poker with a resource management game. Like, people act like there are best plays to making Catan, but, like, because of its randomization of where the islands go, who goes first, and the resources you can draw on the dice rolls, it's really just a poker game, but with Catan.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so if you're a good poker player, you can probably do pretty well in Catan.
I think the difference, though, in Catan specifically, is that
people can track your resources more.
Not only people can track your resources, but the correct play is less obvious because it's built on the players you're playing with.
Yes.
Because in a game like Catan, or even EDH, Commander, Magic the Gathering, multiplayer Magic,
there's much more social construct to it, but that's where I'm getting, like, the poker element from.
The correct play isn't always the, like,
best play.
The play that would be best in a vacuum.
Yes.
And that makes it more interesting. Although I do think it's hilarious that Ticket to Ride and Catan have world championships, because neither of those games feel like games that should have a competitive scene.
Especially Ticket to Ride. Like, Catan has more of a competitive element to it, I would say, than Ticket to Ride. Ticket to Ride, you can really just get fucked by the table layout based on the tickets you got at the start of the game. If the table layout is bad, you just get fucked.
I think competitive Ticket to Ride is more interesting than competitive Catan, though.
Because it's more of trying to work around getting fucked?
Because it's a given pool of, like, when you should be building trains and how you should be building your trains and where you should be building them. Because if you put too much into, like, building your routes early,
people will notice and fuck you over.
Yeah, and they can block you out.
Yeah.
But, like, if you don't, like, people will accidentally block you anyways.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of given pool in Ticket to Ride that Catan doesn't have. Catan feels like, as a competitive game, it's going to be much more cutthroat and much more ruthless.
Yeah. Which is why I said Catan feels much more like it's more towards a competitive game.
Oh yeah, I think Ticket to Ride would be way more
because Ticket to Ride doesn't feel as competitive, so it's more ridiculous and fun to approach it from a competitive view. I get it.
I hope to God that some of these passengers have either played competitive Catan or played competitive Ticket to Ride, and can, like, when we do our call to action at the end of the episode, like, choose to email us and talk about the competitive scenes for those games, because I would love to know more.
You know what I want? I want competitive Flux.
Flux is so great, and I think competitive Flux would be hilarious.
You know what other board game I want to be competitive? I want competitive Candyland.
That's stupid.
It's just a 50-50 bet. Let's go!
That's so stupid because you don't have to play the game.
I know.
I think if we're talking about...
You never have to play the game. Don't play Candyland. It's not a game. It's literally based on who goes in what position and then what the deck is.
So how you play Candyland as adults without children is you shuffle the deck, determine who's going first, second, third, so on. And then you just deal cards in order and determine how many cards it takes each person to win.
Yep.
And then whoever takes the least cards to win
wins Candyland.
You don't even have to, like, actually get the board out. You just have to, like, have a picture of the board and be like, okay, here we go.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, you can do the same thing with, like, Chutes and Ladders or Snakes and Ladders. You just give everyone random number generation tables.
Fair enough.
Like, give everyone 100 randomly generated numbers with a 1d6. So from 1 to 6. I think it uses a 1d6.
I don't remember. I think
and then you just go down the table.
Some variants use a spinner.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you just go down the table and see who gets there the soonest on the table. Look, man, board games made for children are not good games.
I do think one of the most interesting games that could be made competitive might be either Skulls or Trio.
Yeah, fair.
Like
Trios could just be, it's just like euchre, and people play euchre competitively. I don't know if there's a world euchre tournament, but like I know people play euchre competitively. Because people play it for money. It's not really in casinos a lot because it's a partner game most of the time, but like I've seen people so many times play euchre for money.
I think both those games have like a really deep like player skill knowledge pool, and also like enough random chance that they'd be fun to watch.
Yeah, and Skull is literally just a lying game. Yeah.
I think we're like,
look, what we're saying is good competitive games aren't based around the game mechanics. They're based around social situations and social dynamic structure for games.
It's why poker had a hot streak in the early 2000s where people were like actively watching poker tournaments on the regular. It's because the social dynamics of poker are fucking amazing. But I think we're just kind of like whiffling here. I'm out of topics. You out of topics?
Where does whiffle come from? I have to assume it comes before whiffle bat.
I don't know. I have no idea. It's a good question that I'm not going to take the time to look up on air.
Fair enough. I was just curious.
Fuck it. Okay, so first we have the definition of whiffle, which means to blow in gusts.
Yeah.
Or to vacillate.
Okay.
Or to whistle softly. So now we're going to look at the etymology of whiffle.
Pog. So it has nothing to do with waffle, I assume, etymologically.
So whiffle, in the sense to mean to flutter as blown by a wind.
Yeah, I assume it has roots in like some Germanic language, probably more German or Dutch. If it doesn't have the historical like basis of language it comes from, that's fine.
Well, it doesn't have like the language it comes from. It says it doesn't have language I'm finding here. It seems to be from the late 1600s.
Okay.
And it's more of an onomatopoeia for the sound of a flutter of wind than like an actual etymologically rooted word.
Honestly, makes sense. It's actually a fairly accurate onomatopoeia for sound, for like a soft flutter of wind.
It also has roots in the term whiff, as in like to catch a whiff of something.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure where that comes from. But like mostly it's an onomatopoeia.
Huh. It honestly makes a lot of sense. And then you can vacillate between things easily because when something is wafting in the breeze or whiffling in the breeze, it's moving gently back and forth.
And then wiffle ball, because the ball has holes and makes a whiffling noise as it flies, and the wiffle bat, like it all comes from the like idea of the sound of wind fluttering.
Fair enough. Because see, I never used wiffle to like refer to the wind, and I knew it could mean to vacillate between two things. So I was wondering why it applied to wiffle bat and wiffle ball. But now I know.
Oh, actually, while we're whiffling for content, because we're short on time so far, Netflix just took a whole bunch of stuff off Netflix and put a whole bunch of stuff on. Yeah. And has more stuff coming throughout the month of September. They always have new stuff coming.
And they took and put some games on there. So some games you want to make sure you have downloaded or purchased on Steam or Epic or wherever.
Specifically, it's Itch.
Yeah.
Oxenfree is the game in question. You can't buy Oxenfree on Itch anymore.
Which is sad, because Oxenfree is legitimately a great fucking game. I haven't played the second, but I still intend to buy it and purchase it and play it at some point.
But if you have Oxenfree on your Itch account, you should download it now, because they are removing it completely from Itch, so you won't be able to download it in the future. Which means they're literally stealing something you paid money for. But that's besides the point. That's the internet now. Remember, if you can't own something, if buying something means you don't own it,
pirating means you're not stealing it.
Exactly.
Feel free to pirate this podcast. You don't pay for it anyways.
Or Gravity Train.
Yeah.
Specifically, Gravity Train.
I mean, Infinity Train, but if you find a show called Gravity Train, go on and pirate that one as well.
I was going to say Infinity Train, then I was like, no, I always say it wrong. Infinity Train you can't find anywhere illegally. Pirate it. The creators have said pirate it. Yeah. One of the creators dropped a Google Drive folder for it on Twitter a couple years ago, where it was like, "This is the entirety of the show. Please pirate it."
You know what's sad and annoys me?
What's that?
So I don't know if you know, the Internet Archive has been in a battle for a few years now
because during the pandemic they removed the singular restriction from. They used to buy books and then loan them out.
Yes.
So, like they limited the amount of books they would loan out
based on the number of copies they owned. Yes. Yeah, they treat it as an online library.
But during the pandemic, because actual libraries were closed, they removed the loan limit and then got sued.
Yes, and that lawsuit said not only was that loan limit incorrect, they're not allowed to even buy a copy and then loan a digital copy based on a one-for-one basis.
Because by loading the text of a book onto the internet, they're infringing on copyright. And it was ruled against the Internet Archive. So
they are obviously appealing it because they're like, we are a nonprofit. We are literally just doing library work.
It's archival work.
It's archival work.
It's literally archival work. It's preventing media from being lost by loading it into a public space.
But it sucks that they lost, and that the grounds went so far as to state that lending on a 1-for-1 basis was illegal, when that's some bullshit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, what I was getting at with Netflix is later this month, actually 4 days after the episode of this podcast release.
So on the 16th?
I think it's the 15th or the 16th, yeah.
Okay.
One of my favorite authors is getting an adaptation of one of his books as a movie on Netflix being released. Scott Westerfeld wrote a series of dystopic novels,
young adult novels
called The Pretty Saga or the Uglies series.
The Uglies.
It's Uglies, Pretties. There's more I can't remember.
The Uglies, the Pretties, the Specials, the Extras.
Yes.
Or Uglies, Pretties, Extras, Specials. No, it's Uglies, Pretties, Specials, Extras. Yes.
And Uglies is getting a movie. It's about a dystopic society that prizes beauty over intelligence or
creativity or individualism.
Yeah, so,
though the society pretends that it greatly values individualism and creativity, but when you reach a certain age, everyone gets plastic surgery and are made to look very beautiful, and then they go live in a utopic city where they're all given drugs to make them pliable and dumb.
It's almost like a metaphor. I don't know what for.
No idea.
But, almost. But anyways, it's getting a movie. I'm hoping the movie's good. I would like to see the entire series get adapted.
I mean, yeah. In my opinion, the books dropped off towards the back part of Specials and Extras, but
yeah,
they were still good.
Yeah. I would also just like Westerfield to get more success. Because
I just remembered the main character's name.
I don't know the main character's name.
Tally Youngblood, if I remember correctly.
It's been forever since I read those. But
something like that.
He also wrote a vampire series that was it was revolutionary for how I interpret vampire mythology.
Also wrote Midnighters, right?
I believe so.
Period between midnight and 1 a.m. The world basically stops, and there's a few teenagers that are aware of it. And at first they're like, "This is fucking cool," and then shit goes sideways because things are happening with time.
Yes, he also did write Midnighters. He's also the dude that wrote the Leviathan series, which is a historical fantasy series set during the First World War.
With steampunk and biopunk.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally biopunk versus steampunk, and God, do I love it.
It's so cool. I love his stuff so much. It's all a lot of fun and very good, while also being
pretty accessible. None of it's super prose heavy. I understand some people get put off by Pat Rothfuss or Brandon Sanderson because sometimes it gets a bit dense, but Scott Westerfeld's books are written towards a younger audience, so it's not super heavy on its prose or on its word choice. It doesn't get too dense for the most part, but it is still well written.
The Uglies universe has a sequel series.
Crazy.
Called Imposters that started in 2018.
Well, I have a new book series to read.
It's got 4 books. 2018's Imposters, then Shatter City, then Mirror's Edge, and then Youngbloods.
I've played Mirror's Edge.
But the vampire series I was talking about is called Peeps. There's 2 books, Peeps in the Last Days. And it's technically a vampire series, but it's also about a pandemic, about a virus that makes people allergic to light, need to consume high iron content.
It gives them porphyria?
Very close to porphyria. But it also creates... in the series Peeps, when people become vampires, the things they love become things they that cause them physical pain. It's the Peeps explanation for why
religion was so deadly to vampires in the 1400s to the 1800s.
But as a middle schooler, when I read books or experienced music or something that put new words in my brain that were words I had not experienced before, I very much strongly remember where they come from.
Yes.
And for Peeps, the word was anathema.
Anathema?
Sorry.
Yeah.
I've read it more than I've said it. Anathema. And
fair.
I've just that word has forever associated itself with Scott Westerfeld's work to me because that's where I learned it. It's the word manumission I learned from a band called Within the Eddy.
Yeah, I also learned that word. I learned that word in 2nd grade.
I also learned the word
because
axioms
of the same band.
From the same band.
Yep.
I don't know. It's just interesting where learning words and stuff get rooted in my brain. And for some reason, the term anathema in regards to how vampires feel about...
Yeah.
It's such a brilliant explanation for why vampires in, the 1600s and 1500s and 1700s were so affected by religion.
Yeah. You know what's weird? And it has no correlation really to anything you're talking about besides the fact that you said anathema. And the word I'm going to say has no correlation to anathema.
Okay.
But when I think of anathema, another word that always pops in my head is apotheosis.
Okay.
You know what apotheosis is, right?
Yeah. It costs 2 energy, and it upgrades all the cards in your hand for the rest of this combat.
Okay, do you know what the definition of the word apotheosis is and why it upgrades those cards?
Uh,
It's like the height or perfection or culmination of being.
Okay, yeah, that
So
makes
it's like the peak, hence why it's increasing your creatures. But yeah, it has nothing to do with anathema.
It has nothing to do with creatures.
Oh,
It's Slay the Spire, so you're upgrading your like attacks and abilities.
Yeah. But that's why it's making them better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it has nothing to do with anathema. But like, I learned the two words around the same time, I guess. It happens all the fucking time whenever I'm thinking of words or a song. Like, the closer I learn two things together or experience something together, like, the more intertwined they are in my brain. And I just learned apotheosis and anathema around the same time period. I learned them both for spelling team. So I learned how to spell them. That was the main part of it, and then because of that, I learned their definitions.
So, if I had to define apotheosis,
yeah.
Mine would have been a peak in a religious manner, like a religious peak.
Kind of, it is more an old term that I have seen more in religious texts than I have in non-religious texts. So,
which is interesting because the etymology comes from apo, meaning the Greek word from, and theos, meaning God.
Yeah. It's literally saying you are so close from God that you are the peak of human being, basically. It would be the root of the world's, like, origin, assumedly.
Yeah, but no, I was making a Slay the Spire joke.
Fair enough. I figured you were making a Magic the Gathering joke.
Oh, no.
Let's face it, apotheosis, buff creature, could be Magic the Gathering as well. It would be a black buff, though. Just based off the word and its etymological roots. I don't know if you noticed that black tends to have more, like, etymological roots and, like, ancient cultures than other cards do.
If it's buffing your creatures, I think it would be a white card with the name apotheosis.
Yeah, you would think, but, like, just from, like, observation, may not even be correct. It feels like black, white, and then blue have, like, the more rooted and, like, ancient words.
Maybe, I don't know. That's a really hard qualifier for me.
I understand. It's just like the trend I personally have seen, and it might be entirely subjective just from the cards I look at the most, but it feels like older meanings and older words tend to be used more in like black or white or blue. Blue if it's more of a older science word, white normally if it's more of a religious word, but black just gets like old words that sound fancy or like intimidating, and older languages tend to sound intimidating to people because they're larger or like it calls back to this like more learned like larger structure. Like you can generally tell when a word has like Greek roots, right? Or Latin roots. And like it kind of feels like that's how some of the cards are presented in Magic, like just from the names I've seen. Just a weird observation. Might even be wrong. Probably is wrong.
Like, I don't know. I honestly don't. Though you're saying all this. And the one thing that keeps popping in my mind is a card from the set Theros.
Yeah.
It's a black creature.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what its effect is. I don't remember what its stat line is. I don't remember what its mana cost is. But its name is something like Blighted Capio Plebis.
Yeah.
I'm saying that wrong. It's a Greek monster.
Yeah.
Which is like a giant cow. And that's all I'm thinking about.
Fair. You know, it's just like a thing I noticed, like I said, might be wrong, but like, I don't know, feels right to say. I wonder if there's a way I could, out of curiosity, check that, though. I highly doubt it. I'd have to, like...
Scryfall might be your best bet. Scryfall might already have filters or something like that.
I doubt it, because it's such a niche thing, but Scryfall is crazy with some of the niche things they do.
Scryfall has a search for characters in art facing right.
Like I said, they have some crazy niche things, so
or
they might.
Characters with hats.
Like, the only even closer, like, older word or more intimidating sounding word that I can think of that's not black, white, or blue isn't even that intimidating. It's just, like, the usage of the word is kind of outdated for the most part. And that's burgeoning, and that's a green card.
Lignify is is one of my favorite words from green cards.
Fair.
It turns a thing into a tree.
Yeah. It's just increasing its lignin count, like the thing that trees are filled with. Which if you remove a bunch of slowly over time through a multi-step process, you can slowly turn the wood transparent. Watch Nile Red.
Why would you do that?
Because transparent wood is, well, it's still wood, so it's not super sustainable to do. Could technically be a better usage of resources than turning sand into glass.
But Justice, we have so much sand, and trees are dying.
True, but technically, not greatly. Technically, trees can be renewable.
I don't believe you.
Sand isn't really renewable.
Sand is definitely renewable.
It is. Sand gets created over time. It just takes a much longer time period than tree.
Here it is. It's Loathsome Catoplebus.
Okay.
I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. It's 5 and a black for a 3/3, so you know we're dealing with a good card here. It says when it dies, target creature an opponent controls gets -3/-3 until the end of the turn. And for 2 and a green, Loathsome Catoplebus must be blocked this turn if able.
Damn.
It's not good.
No, it's not. It's the damn. That wasn't like a damn. That was a damn.
It was a common, but God, I would have felt bad about putting that in a deck.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have.
In Theros Limited.
No, it also means I'm going black-green, which wasn't bad in Theros, but not my style.
Nah, like, I miss Old Limited, and this is going to be a Magic the Gathering segment here in a second.
Okay.
I don't remember which Magic content creator tweeted it a couple weeks ago, but they tweeted about how...
It was me. I'm secretly a massive Magic the Gathering content creator.
I'm thinking it was Saffron Olive. But they tweeted that they missed the block format, which in Magic, there used to be a structure. Sets used to be released in what was called block structure.
Yes.
You'd have a first set that introduces you to the new world or reintroduces the world that you're on.
Yeah.
A second set that develops the plot, and a third set that concludes the plot.
Yes.
And so for an entire year...
It would have a beginning, a middle, and an end.
And in Standard, which is was the default format, you would have 4 sets a year. You'd have a core set in the summer, which is just like staple cards for the game.
Yeah.
And then in the fall, you would get your first set in a block. In the winter, you'd get your second set in the block. And in the spring, you'd get your third set. You used to spend an entire year on one plane.
Yes.
Now we typically end up going to 3 or 4 planes a year.
Fucked up.
And the story is all in one set.
Boo.
And I don't feel engaged with Magic story anymore, partially because of that. I don't feel engaged with Magic world building anymore because of that. But the most detrimental thing this has done for me as a Magic player is every draft environment now is 3 copies of the same pack.
Yeah.
In block structure, you draft 3 for the first draft season of the year. You would draft 3 packs of the first set.
Yeah.
And then the second set would come out, and you draft 2 packs of the first set, 1 pack of the second set, and it would depend on the set how you would draft those. Some sets you would draft first set, second set, first set, and other sets you would draft first, second, and then still some sets you draft second, first.
Yeah.
And then the third set would come out, and you
get one of each.
You would either do one of each, or in Tarkir, you would instead draft 2 of this third set and 1 of the middle set.
Yeah.
Because the middle set was the pivot set for the entire block. Mm-hmm. But it created more in-depth draft environments.
Yeah, and everything felt much more cohesive because it was a cohesive world and story, so things felt like they vibed better. As a person who liked flavor in Magic, it made it much more enjoyable.
What, you mean it's not flavorful anymore? The current set that is set in a world that was equivalent to 1980s America, but has been... No, I'm talking about Duskmourn.
Okay.
What was set in a 1980s equivalent America, but was consumed by a demonic house, and the entire plane is now existent inside this house, and has been for hundreds of years, but for some reason, all of the characters still dress like they're 1980s movie protagonists?
Nice.
You mean that flavor is not what you want?
I mean, that's fine if that's only that flavor.
It's terrible because they're all dressed and all the arts and the cards would make them still look like new.
Yeah, I know.
The clothes and stuff and the people shouldn't look new and happy or because they're stuck in literally a horror house.
Yeah, and also, I mean,
the clothes shouldn't be new. It shouldn't be
classic issue of any content made to replicate an age period. They are wearing 80s movie fashion attire, not what people just wore in the 80s.
Yeah.
You don't have people wearing clothes from the 70s or settings that are more like the 60s or the 70s because people are living in the 60s and 70s things when it's the 80s. It's the past rose-colored glasses look at the 80s interpreted through Magic.
And I think the really large issue I have with that is if you're keeping it with the Magic story,
yes,
it is very gritty with because they're the survivors. People that are living in the Duskmourn house are all survivors because in order to reach a point where they can be actual human beings and make decisions, they've had to survive through their life to get to that point. You know what?
Maybe they are just wearing 80s clothes strictly because they've already worn out all the old clothes from the 40s onwards.
Yeah, but that doesn't explain why we get art like this where it's obviously new clothes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find the real offender here.
Look, the world might have gone to shit, but tailors are still making a fucking buck, man.
It's just aggravating that the story doesn't line up with the art that we're given.
Yeah.
Because obviously people in charge of those two things weren't in communication to create a cohesive world.
The people in our department were just told 80s style fantasy people, go.
Here's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, no.
If you're wondering, listener, what I'm showing him right now, it's a picture of the card Acrobatic Cheerleader, which already, there shouldn't be cheerleaders in Duskmourn anymore.
Yeah, if you're still identifying as a cheerleader, you got your priorities fucked up, bro.
This is a distinct failure between lore and art, and not even just lore and art. The flavor text of this card is also a failure because...
Oh, yeah?
Acrobatic Cheerleader cost 1 and a white, is a 2/2. The actual game text doesn't matter. The flavor text, though, is, I used to cheat death every day in practice. This is nothing. This human is 200 plus years old because that's how long Duskmourn has been a fucking horror house. But she's a teenage cheerleader.
Yeah.
She used to cheat death every day in practice.
Did people get put in a stasis?
No, they didn't.
Yeah, no, that makes no fucking sense.
It's a complete, breakdown of lore And
what they're not telling you is also survivors are also actively RPing the 80s.
It's actively upsetting.
Yeah, they're all actively LARPing the 80s still.
Which is upsetting to me because Dustin Ward sounded like such a cool plane.
Yeah.
And from a story perspective, I really enjoyed it.
Fair.
It's just, there's an incohesiveness between the game and story. And I think that's partially because they
don't care about the story. Magic doesn't care about the story anymore.
They don't. No, like it's all about making references.
Yes.
This is specifically a reference to like the movie trope. They don't care that it doesn't make sense within the world. They care that it's a thing that people go, oh, I know that.
No, they're making sets that are just meant to draw people's eye. Things like Thunder Junction.
No, don't even get me started on Thunder Junction.
Even the fucking Fairy Tale set.
I mean, I love Eldraine.
Eldraine is neat, but it's all meant to be like, oh, I get this reference. I get this. I get this.
I think Eldraine might be the last, so saying the last is...
No, Eldraine had a story that was cohesive with the art, and, the story was good overall. What I'm saying is, you can kind of chart that being, the first step into, I get this reference, I get this reference, I get this reference.
That's what I was about to say.
And it's also, around that time of period is when we started to see more steps and secret layers being partnered with brands and stuff.
That's what I was going to say, because I was getting at, I think Eldraine might have been, and I'm saying last, but they can always change this in the future. I think Eldraine might have been one of the last times where the story, the art, and the game were all in sync with each other.
Yeah.
Because they had mimetic references. There's the gingerbread man.
Mm-hmm. And there's a Red Riding Hood.
There's a Red Riding Hood. There's a gingerbread man. There's these things.
There's a big bad wolf, but they all fit with the story they're telling as well.
There's a green giant. There's a Jack and the Beanstalk reference, but there's also the Green Knight from Gawain and the Green Knight. Yep. And there's all these things that are referential, and you'd be like, oh, I recognize that. But at the same time, they've all been reinterpreted for Magic and make sense within the story. And but that's not true for things going forward. For instance, you brought up Outlaws of Thunder Junction.
Yeah.
Outlaws of Thunder Junction is a new plane, quotation marks, where there is no native sentient species.
Yeah.
So it's okay that everybody's coming in and laying claims for their own planes.
Mm-hmm.
Because as much as it's a Old West set, they didn't want to deal with the actual problematic issues of an Old West set.
Yeah.
But then, because they were we need a native creature, they created these cactus people who have just woken up when the Omen Paths opened.
Yeah.
The cactus people have their own culture, but we don't talk about that. They don't because they don't want to...
They don't want to deal with the implications of settlers being a horrible issue and being invaders to native lands.
Also, as a set, Outlaws of Thunder Junction had a larger issue, which was it was supposed to have an Aftermath style set, and March of Machines had Aftermath, which was going to be a whole bunch of legendary creatures themed for the Wild West. But because Aftermath for March of the Machines performed so badly because it was $5 a pack still.
Fucked up.
For I think 7 card packs.
Even worse.
And there was a total of 80 cards in the set, so the amount of duplicates you got
even worse.
Yeah, it was terrible. Nobody wanted it. You can still buy boxes today for sub $60.
Yeah, fair.
And it did terrible.
Yeah.
And so they scrapped the Aftermath project for Outlaws, and instead of scrapping it and being we'll find places for these in the future,
they just scrapped all the cards.
No, they just shoved all the cards into Thunder Junction.
Oh, that's even worse.
Yeah. They just scrapped the cards. That's been cool. Instead, they were nope, in the main set. And so we got a main set where there's a whole bunch of legendary creatures who all have stories that people know showing up in this place, and we don't know why they're there. There's no explanation for it. There's if it had just been a cool little extra flavor set, people would have been oh, that's fine. Yeah. But nobody would have bought it because Aftermath sets are priced poorly for what they are.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, we got a set where the main story is supposed to be a high story because nobody's ever lived on this plane. But there's an ancient vault from an old civilization on this plane
because no one's ever lived there.
And it's okay that we're doing a cowboy set and expanding into the Old West because there's no native species. But also there is this native species of cactus people. But that's not an issue, right?
Not at all, no.
Outlaws of Thunder Junction was a mess, and as cool as it was aesthetically, it was fucked from a lore and gameplay cohesiveness.
Yep.
Sorry.
So getting out of Magic, possibly, huh?
Yeah.
Fair.
Can you tell why?
No, not at all.
Can you? Oh, fuck. And if I went into the issues with competitive play, I'd go on so much longer. They fucked Modern for almost an entire half of a competitive season because they just didn't want to admit that some cards that shouldn't have been in Modern were in Modern.
Yeah.
And then the One Ring from the Lord of the Rings set is still in Modern.
No.
And I want to let you know something. The One Ring is the single most played card in Modern.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that as in the single most played spell in Modern. There are more One Rings in Modern than any given land.
That's fucked up.
There are more One Rings in Modern than there are arid mesas or plains or islands or steam vents.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
48% of decks have One Rings.
Nah, man.
And when Wizards did their last ban, they were like, the One Ring is not an issue because there's no One Ring deck. And it's like, yeah, because every deck is a One Ring deck.
Yeah, because every deck has to run on One Ring, otherwise they're not competitive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyways.
A thing that was, as I said before, is proof that a card needs to be banned. If people are having to shoehorn a card in to stay competitive.
It's why, I'm forgetting the actual name, Smuggler's Copter, back in good old Kaladesh, which seems like forever ago now, got banned because...
Yeah, because every deck was shoehorning one in, even if it didn't make sense in the deck, because you needed it to stay competitive.
It's because it was so good. It was a 2-mana 3/3 flyer, and
you know, it's just like how every deck would have a fucking Black Lotus if Black Lotus was allowed in Modern.
Yeah, well, because you could crew Smuggler's Copter with any creature that had at least 1 power.
Yep, most creatures.
And when it attacked you, you got to draw a card and discard a card for 2 mana. For 2 mana, that was a creature you got. It was too good. It was seeing too high of play percentages, so they banned it.
Yeah, they're like, oh, this card is controlling too much of the format.
Too many decks are playing this card. It's actively warping the format.
Mm-hmm.
The One Ring, too many decks are playing that card. It's actively warping the format. But Wizards is like, there's no single One Ring deck, so it's not actually hurting the form. I'm going to stop venting about Magic now.
I think the issue with the One Ring is because if they admit that the One Ring is a bad card for format, it's unhealthy for format, they have to admit that they are printing cards specifically to sell rather than to be played in their game.
I mean, that's always the thing they've done.
Yeah, but they don't like admitting it.
I think the larger issue with the One Ring is that it was like this big iconic piece, and one of the biggest celebrity Magic players paid like a ridiculous amount of money for an exclusive version of the card.
Yeah.
So like being able to hype up that story and talk about how cool this thing is,
is
only cool if the card is still legal to play.
Yeah, I'm saying it's doing too much brand work for them.
Yeah.
For them to be like, oh no, we are actively just printing cards because we know we can sell them, and we're partnering with things, that we can go, oh, I get it, or oh, I know that thing, and we want you to be able to play with those cards, even if they're not healthy or good for the format, because then we have a reason to keep making more of those cards.
Like, I think...
Look, everyone's using One Ring. Clearly, these secret layers are worth it and make people happy, and they enjoy buying them.
The One Ring isn't from a secret layer.
I know it's not, but that's my point, though. Like, it's the same excuse for, like, making secret layers the way they do.
I think specifically, there are a lot of people that work at Wizards of the Coast that love Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
And they want the game to be as healthy and good as possible. But I think the
WotC
people...
and Hasbro.
The people actively in charge of the game...
The companies, WotC and Hasbro.
Don't care.
No, they just want money, which that's what companies do. It's called capitalism. It's fucking horrible.
I think... a lot of games that see success that aren't like major card games or role-playing games see success not only because the people that are making it love the game, but because the people in charge of like producing it and marketing it also love the game.
Or if they don't, they hand more control over to people that love the game. It's like, hey, you clearly have a fan base, you know what you're doing, continue to do what you do, and sure, we're not making as much profit as we possibly could, but we are making more profit in the longer run.
I think this actually like extends out of the gaming sphere, because I think the same issue happened with Netflix's live adaptation of Avatar. It went from being like...
And also the DCEU with Zack Snyder.
Yeah. It's so much less about creating something that people love, and so much more about creating something that's profitable.
Yep, it's all about the spectacle rather than the substance.
Yeah.
I think that's a bleak enough note to end on you.
I don't want to just shit on Magic and walk away. I still love Cube. I still play Cube regularly.
I'm fine with shitting on Magic and walking away.
I think Magic is still one of the best games ever made. I just think
Magic has a fun, good format. Like, even though I particularly don't enjoy the game that much, I still don't mind playing it as I'm playing. I mind having to play it because it always feels like an effort. But like when I'm playing the game, I'm fine with it. I enjoy it.
But yeah, you're right. We've probably ran the time up.
Yeah.
Magic sucks now, and...
Play competitive Ticket to Ride instead.
No. Build a competitive scene for Skulls or Trio at your local gaming store. Be that person. Build that scene.
Play competitive Pandemic.
Can you?
I don't know. That's why I said it.
Isn't that a co-op game?
I don't know.
Oh, you play competitive Pandemic by creating teams of 4... and then simultaneously playing Pandemic at the same time.
And whoever resolves it first wins.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I don't hate this idea. It's not even like who resolves it first, it's who resolves it in like the least amount of elapsed time in-game rather than elapsed time in real life.
Actually, play competitive thing from Outpost 13 or whatever. Yeah, 13's not right. It's some Outpost number.
I think it's Outpost 31.
But maybe. Yeah. Play competitive co-op multiplayer games.
Oh, Jesus, yes.
Do it.
So I know we're trying to wrap down. But specifically, one of my favorite board games is a cooperative game that has competitive rules for it. Arkham
competitive speedrunning of like legacy games of like King's Dilemma,
Pandemic Legacy,
or Pandemic Legacy, Risk Legacy, Frosthaven, any of those competitive speedrunnings of those, please, because they have structured elements and stories of things that have to happen, but it changes on your choices. So like you could do an entire King's Dilemma, but you have to know what the correct choices are to like. Honestly, King's Dilemma doesn't have a particular direct end goal, but like you choose a speedrunning category, like to get to this much renown, or to get so many stats in the good, or until a certain number of king deaths, or like a certain event that happens in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, Arkham Horror and Eldritch Horror are two of my favorite board games.
Yeah.
And they're ostensibly cooperative games, but there are rules for keeping score.
Yep.
And at the end of the game, if you guys don't all die to the ancient Eldritch abominations,
one person wins more.
One person wins more because they had more points. They did more.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Great rules. I love it. I've never played with those rules other than like the first couple times I played, specifically because like I'm trying to get people to play the game and enjoy it rather than me be like, guys, play this game I love. Let me beat you at this game I love.
Or because I think it actively ruins the game. Competitive Call to Adventure, because Call to Adventure doesn't work great as a competitive game like it's built. It's built better as a story maker. But play as a competitive World Champions Call to Adventure.
Hey, specifically, there are rules for like a winner and loser in that game.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, playing competitively. I think actively playing the game competitive, like it's built, makes the game worse than to ignore the competitive aspect that the game naturally wants you to do. Play the game worse.
Call to Adventure is a fun, like, example of it. Like, there's 100% times where we've both been like, want to just, like, both pass this round, even though, like...
that one's worth more points, so one of us would be winning more. It's like, yeah, but that doesn't match the story beats of what I have already.
It's basically like, so, if I pass and you don't, you get to take the lead and be an advantage. But if we both pass, we can rinse the board a little bit to get better story beats. And it's like...
yeah, what the story beats, man. It's better that way.
The first player that chooses to do that, like if you discuss it, you're like, so if I pass and get rid of this card,
they're operating entirely on a trust system,
and get rid of this card because that way we have better chances of finding good story beats. And you could be like, yeah, I'll do that, and then I go pass, I'm gonna get rid of this card to reveal a new story path, and you could be like, I'm gonna advance my story, and I'll be like, no, you mother,
I'm winning now.
I'm winning at telling the best story. The game says so. I have more points.
Yeah, but you just massacred an entire village. Like, how does that track with all the other shit? It doesn't matter. I have more points. Look, I very much like Call to Adventure. I don't like the fact that it has a scoring system. It should just be a card-based role-playing game.
Yeah.
But I understand it's hard to market to board game people by being like, here, play this RPG.
I think, yeah.
That really feels like what all Call to Adventure is. It's like, no, we wanted to make an RPG, but we wanted a broader base to sell the game to. The RPG people will figure it out. Board game people will just get points. Am I wrong? The game feels like.
The board game people will play the board game and be fine with it. And the RPG people will realize, oh, the points didn't matter. They were made up.
Yeah. We made it all up.
Call to Adventure is a great game. If you haven't played it, play it. It's fantastic.
It has a fun Name of the Wind expansion.
Yeah. Jesus. I think we found a good endpoint. This isn't near as depressing as Magic sucks.
Play board games that aren't meant to be played competitively,
and play board games that are ostensibly competitive games collaboratively.
Exactly. Ignore what they tell you to do. Make your own rules. You're the master of your own destiny.
I want to spin this off and talk about Dungeons and Dragons now because this is specifically
yeah, Dungeons and Dragons. The more monsters you kill, the more you win in the game.
That's how some people treat it. That's how some people treat it. And it's like you were literally just talking, make your own rules, it's your own game, nobody can stop you. And that's it's so true for role-playing games, specifically Dungeons and Dragons.
I like board games. I am an RPGer.
Nobody can stop you from making up your own rules. If you want sushis and tacos in your Dungeons and Dragons...
I want hamburgers.
You want samosas?
No.
Okay, well, you could have hamburgers in your Dungeons and Dragons game. Nobody can stop you. Yeah, nobody can stop you.
Yes! I'm not going to eat the froyo. I just want it to exist.
I think Dungeons and Dragons fans need to really understand that you don't have to buy every WotC expansion they release. You could just have the books you have and play with them.
Yeah, or hear me out, because it's actually a great way to play the game, and it helps a bunch of independent creators. Buy splat books made by independent people who are making resources for 5e, or whatever other version of Dungeons & Dragons you're playing, and use those. They have such creative ideas, and you're supporting independent artists, and you're making the game a better space.
I will say, I personally hate that basically every splat book that hits the internet has to have the words 5e compatible.
Yeah.
Or it won't do shit in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm. That sucks, but me, like, use them at least. Like, they put the 5e compatible in there for a reason. They need to sell the copies. And they put a bunch of fucking work into it, and most of them are so fucking neat. You will find really bad ones, obviously, because people exist.
Simultaneously to this, well, I think supporting small creators and helping to build this space up, I think some splat books just shouldn't be for D&D.
Yeah.
Like Obajiwa, that shouldn't have been a Dungeons & Dragons splat book.
Yeah.
Obajiwa was a Dungeons & Dragons splat book, well, a 5e compatible splat book that got kickstarted last year, and it was marketed as Studio Ghibli, but Dungeons & Dragons.
Yeah, just should have been its own game. Would have been doper.
Yeah.
But anyway, though, I think we're good now.
Probably. So, if you want to contact us and tell us about your favorite competitive board game that is not meant to be competitive, or
your favorite collaborative board games that's not meant to be collaborative,
you could do that myriad of ways. If you just want to tell me how wrong I am about Magic right now, feel free.
If you want to tell me how right I am about Magic, I already know.
You can do that, again, a myriad of ways. First and easiest is our email address, copilotsreview@gmail.com.
Or you can find us on Blue Sky, I guess. I haven't checked in forever.
We're still technically on there.
Yeah, Twitter, or X, with the handle @copilotsreview.
Hey, no, it's just Twitter. Don't justify it.
Fair.
Don't acknowledge him.
I don't want to acknowledge him, but it's not Twitter anymore. Twitter was a better place.
Twitter was a better place.
Or you can find a link to our email, our socials, such as the aforementioned ones, and our YouTube, our Discord, and our Patreon by going to our website, copilotsreview.simplecast.com.
And we'll see you on the next flight.